So today I want to go over a pretty easy way to potentially make a ridiculous amount of gold depending on how many alts you have to make use of this. So if you've been playing the War Within, you may have noticed that every zone has its own open world event, and the one for Hollowfall is the Spreading the Light event. Now this isn't an event like some of the other events are because this one is always active, but basically you come here, you kill enemies that gives you a currency specific to this area, and then you light up all of the big crystals, and then there's tons of dailies and rare spawns all in this area. But the weekly portion of this event is actually very simple, and it will give you a radiant cache. Now this can be done on every single one of your characters on a weekly basis. Now how you can make gold from this radiant cache is that it can drop two very expensive recipes. First being recipe Feast of the Divine Day, and this will teach you the Feast of the Divine Day. And the Feast of the Divine Day is actually the best in slot food for this expansion. So this is the highest tier of feast you can make, and that's obviously going to be very expensive, and pretty much every raiding guild is going to want at least one person that can make these feasts, or they're just going to want to buy a bunch of these on the auction house, meaning a bunch of people that are focusing on cooking will definitely want this feast, and this recipe is able to be sold. So the first recipe you can make gold off of being the feast, but the second being the pattern Sanctified Torchbearer's Grips. Now this is a leatherworking recipe that teaches you how to make some mail gloves, and these gloves are one of the new embellishment items, meaning they have a special effect on them, and you can only have 2 crafted embellished items, and these gloves seemingly have a pretty good damage proc on them, so they're not only going to be useful early on in the expansion, but since you can recraft items and constantly bring them up to your current item level, both of these recipes are going to be used for the majority of the expansion, meaning they're both going to be pretty expensive. And when you go and look at the price of these items, it definitely shows that these are very valuable recipes. And for the Feast of the Divine Day, the US average is 370,000 gold. And the Sanctified Torchbearer's Grips, the US average is right under 200,000 gold. So getting either of these recipes is basically getting a token right now, or in the case of the Feast recipe, almost 2 tokens. Now with these recipes being so valuable, they're not going to be a super high drop chance to get from these radiant caches, but there's a few things that make these much more farmable than you may realize. So first off, these radiant caches are able to be obtained on any character level 68 and above, because pretty much any character that can start the War Within expansion can go do these zone events, and all of the enemies around this area are scaled. So if you bring a level 70 here, the enemies will be level 70, and you'll probably be much stronger because of the scaling, so you'll be able to kill them really easily, get the resources you need to do the weekly objective to get your radiant cache on that character. And the second thing that makes these much more farmable is you don't actually need the professions to get these items. I actually got the Sanctified Torchbearer's Grips recipe on a character that does not have leatherworking, and it's a leatherworking recipe. So you don't actually need a character to have the professions or have the professions at some progression point to get these recipes. You just need characters that can start the War Within and go complete this weekly to get the radiant cache to have another chance to get either of these recipes. And if you're someone like me or a lot of other players, you probably have a lot of level 70s, especially if you're somebody that played Remix. You probably have a ton of characters that can just go start the War Within. So you just start the War Within, you skip all of the starting quests, it'll take you right to Dornegal, then you just go fly to Hollowfall, and all you need to do is kill a handful of enemies, because all you need is 12 of the crystals to drop from pretty much every enemy in this area, because then you just need to light 4 of these lesser fires in this area, and all of these lesser fires only cost 3 currency. So you get 12 of this currency from killing pretty much 12 of any enemy in the area, and you just completed this weekly event that'll give you a chance to get either of these very expensive recipes from the Radiant Cache. And something else to note with these is that they may get more expensive when season 1 starts, not only because people are actually going to want to start to craft these feasts and craft some of this higher tier crafted gear, but because a lot of people will also stop doing these open world weeklies once you can do Mythic Plus and once you can start doing the raids. Because a lot of people are only doing these open world weeklies because they can give you gear and they give you the keys for the delves, which a lot of raiders and Mythic Plus players will want to do right when season 1 starts, but they probably won't be farming these after that point. They'll just continue to do Mythic Plus and raids or go do PvP. So I think a lot less people will be doing this once that happens, meaning these patterns may go up in price early on within season 1. But that's pretty much all you have to do to potentially make a ridiculous amount of gold on these 2 different recipes. So if you have a ton of level 70 characters, I would definitely recommend bringing them all here, doing this very fast weekly, and seeing if you can get some of these very expensive recipes. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.